Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I hope you had a wonderful and restful weekend without any check calls. Today I'm going to be sharing our flatbed numbers with you guys, and both our flatbeds are operated by my business partners. As I mentioned before, I don't have any reefer numbers to share with you guys because of unforeseen circumstances, and we do not operate dry vans anymore because of the iffy market conditions. Now, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I teach about the trucking industry with a heavy focus on the spot market as well as freight market analysis. So if this is a topic that interests you, feel free to subscribe down below. So again, today we're going to be looking at both our flatbed numbers, and as some of you already know, we are hiring flatbed drivers. Now, after speaking to my business partners, we decided that we're going to give our potential drivers a choice. You can either earn 70 cents per mile on all miles or 28% of gross. And in this video, I'm going to break it down using our numbers to show you how much you could possibly make. Now, before we dive in, just a reminder, both of these trucks are operated by my business partners and I am the one dispatching them. That is why you will not see a dispatching expense and no payroll expenses. But now let's go to the board. Ready? Let's go. Okay, before anyone says anything, because I know I'm gonna get a comment about this, yes, I'm wearing a jacket being in Southern California. I am perpetually cold. No, the AC is not turned on. I am just cold all the time. So that's why I wear sweaters and jackets and so forth. Let's get into the numbers. So we have our 53-foot flatbed right here. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay, 53-foot flatbed right here and 48-foot flatbed right here. So the first thing we have is days worked. The 48-foot flatbed only started on the 13th. It actually isn't even 17 days. It's a little bit less than that, but he started only on the 13th. The 53-foot flatbed started on the 3rd, so pretty much worked the whole month. Gross income, you can see the difference. Gross income for the 53 was $34,489. For the 48-foot one, it was $16,850, pretty much half. Here we have our deadhead miles. Obviously, for the 48-foot flatbed, we did a little bit better. 53-foot flatbed, one of the things that ruined it for us is we had one load where it was like 450 miles deadhead. I'm going to show it to you in the breakdown later on. Here are our loaded miles, pretty much half for the 48-foot flatbed, total miles, and we have the average loaded rate per mile and total rate per mile. So for the 53-foot flat, the average loaded rate per mile was $3.30. Whereas for the 48-foot, it was $3.08. Total was $277 for the 53 and $273 for the 48-foot flatbed. I feel like I could do a little bit better this month with that average loaded rate per mile. But for now, this is my first time really learning the equipment type, like really diving in. So I'm gonna take it. Then we have the expenses, 53-foot, 48-foot. So starting with truck payment. On our 53-foot flatbed, we don't have a truck payment, it's paid off. On our 48-foot, it's $3,452 per month, not cheap. Then we had the trailer payment. Both of these are rented. So for the 53-foot, it's $1,100 per month. 48-foot, it's $995 per month. Then we have the fuel expenses, insurance. The reason I have this in red for the 48-foot flatbed is because this insurance, $3,463, it's not correct. Basically, we sold our truck a few months ago, one of our trucks. We had two trucks under this company. Oh yeah, and as a reminder, these are two different companies. Remember, I run two trucking companies. This is our original company. This is our baby company. So under our baby company, we had two trucks. Both of them were under insurance, both liability and physical damage. We sold one of those trucks a few months ago, but it was never, the insurance never reflected that. It took them some time. So that is why the insurance is so high. It's actually for two trucks. They will obviously apply whatever we overpaid to our balance, but just so you know, this is not correct. It's actually half of this. Then we have some maintenance costs, filings and taxes. Remember, at the end of last month, IFTA, New Mexico, Kentucky, Oregon, New York taxes, they were all due. Consumables is any tools for the truck. We have washes, scales, electronic logging device, and load board. The reason it's zero here is because I no longer pay for a load board for the baby company, and this is because I have access to the original load board. So if we look at the total expenses, this is for our original company, 53-foot flatbed, 48-foot flatbed. So you can see there's quite a difference here in net profit. For our 53-foot flatbed, we made $23,000 some net. For the baby company, $3,096 net. And partially, this is because of the ridiculous insurance. Partially, it's because we do have a truck payment here. And partially, it's because we didn't have the opportunity to book as many loads. So I'm sure this will be much better next month than it was this month. Okay, since the 53-foot flatbed is the one that worked pretty much a full month here, that's the one we're going to break down into a load by load basis, and I'm going to show you what 70 cents per mile versus 28% of gross looks like. Now here's the breakdown. Let me just move it down here. Here's the breakdown. We have the dates, we have the pickup, delivery, and I have deadhead in the brackets. We have the total miles with deadhead, so it's deadhead plus loaded miles, the rate per mile, and what you make from each load as a 70 cent per mile driver versus a 28% of gross driver. Now, something to consider. None of these loads required tarping. They were all strap and go. I don't believe we even had, maybe we had one or two chain loads, but pretty much these were all strap and go. Only this load highlighted in blue required a 53-foot flatbed. Everything else was either a 48 or 53-foot flatbed. It didn't make a difference. What you will also notice if you look at the dates right here is pretty much most of these loads are one-day loads. And this is why my business partners and I decided to offer the opportunity to make 28% of gross. You will actually see that you would make more money if you were to do 28% of gross, but let's go ahead and take a look. So as you can see, we stayed mostly in the south, right? There was only one load where we went to the West Coast, and this is because this business partner needed to come back home. But other than that, it was mostly south, some Midwest sometimes, but again, 90% south. In terms of the deadheads, we had one crazy deadhead right here. It was Texas to Louisiana, 435 deadhead miles for $1,200. And this was a load by Molo Solutions, strap and go, nothing crazy. So it was a really, really good load, but because of the deadhead, this is the rate per mile we get after all the miles. But in general, it's been pretty good. Now, if you look at each load, I'm just gonna make this a little bit bigger. 70 cents per mile is obviously based on the miles with deadhead. 28% of gross is based on the rate. And you can see that pretty much in every situation, you're making more with 28% of gross than you're doing with a cents per mile basis. Now, if we look at the total, I mean, you guys already saw the total miles. Here's the total miles, the total gross, the average rate per mile with deadhead, and then we have, this is 70 cents per mile, $8,704 versus 28% of gross, $9,656. So a little bit blurry there. I do apologize. But something I realized with flatbeds is in order for everyone to make money, we have to do those short loads. Long loads, they don't pay as well in terms of rate per mile, and it's just not as efficient. I feel like short loads are more efficient, they pay better. I understand it's more work, but that's why we're offering that 28% of gross, just because it just makes more sense. If you're running less miles but making more, you should have a percentage of the actual gross, the load amount. Just makes more sense. So my experience with flatbeds in April of 2023 was an interesting one. On one hand, I'm pretty proud of myself because I managed to average over $3 per mile on loaded miles for both of our flatbeds, considering that all of the loads were no tarp loads. On the other hand, it was definitely a learning curve, and it continues to be a learning curve. One thing I realized is that when I'm booking loads, I have to search up most of the commodities to understand what exactly we are hauling. And that matters because it gives me and my business partners an idea of how to actually secure that load. For example, and this is something I learned a while back, if you're transporting hay, it might be a strap and go, but something you need to know is that that hay moves quite a bit because it's just basically packed grass, so it's a little bit more dangerous. Certain loads require edge protectors and so on and so forth, so I'm still learning. The one thing that I absolutely love about flatbeds is that 99.9% of the time it's all first come, first serve. There are no real appointments. On one hand, it's a blessing because you can deliver and pick up a load within a window. On the other hand, it can be a curse because a lot of these shippers, they close at around 2, 3, 4 o'clock. And of course, deliveries on weekends are pretty much non-existent. One of my business partners who used to operate reefers said that with reefers, your sleep pattern is broken because reefers most of the time require appointments either late at night or very early in the morning, and paired with hours of service, it really screws up the sleep patterns. With flatbeds, getting rest is easier, and that is essential considering the amount of work that goes into actually securing that load. Another thing I realized is it's easier to find direct shippers straight on the load board. They seem to be posting more for flatbeds than they do for any other equipment type. But of course, building a relationship with those direct shippers is pretty difficult when you just have 2 flatbeds available and they are never in the area you need them to be. Again, I work off the spot market and I always chase the best rate going to a good place. So unfortunately, building those relationships is pretty difficult when you have such a small fleet. Finally, the market. The flatbed market can be good if you know where to be and you stick to your guns. As you saw from the breakdown, for the most part, we stuck to the southern states. But at the end of the month, one of my business partners went to Oregon with the 53-foot flatbed, and this is because it was time for him to come home. The other one went to Massachusetts because I had to wrap up the month and I basically grabbed the highest paying load possible. And let me tell you, Oregon has really crappy rates, and Massachusetts, it's terrible for flatbeds. So it's not that the market is good everywhere for a flatbed. You have to know where to go and you have to stick to those areas. So yeah, it's all about the market at the end of the day. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something new for yourself. Wishing you all a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you in the next video.